Hello everybody, the Lord Root here, and welcome back to another episode of Flight Force Survival. So today we are finally doing it. We are finally getting our Duna mission underway. After a bit of preparation, I think we can do it. I think that we'll be able to do it just fine, actually. It did take me a little bit to design the spacecraft that we're going to take, but I present to you the Duna Explorer and the Ike Explorer. So let's roll this thing out onto the launch pad. As you can see, these things are by no means rather cheap. It's going to be around 400k or so in order for us to launch these. However, the amount of science that we'll be getting back from these is going to be well worth it. And on top of that, we may try to get a brief launch into orbit to where what we can do is we can get the gravioli science around Kerbin. That should not be difficult to do. But I've taken this Titan 2 stage and I've extended it a little bit. And that is one thing that I've done here. We are stable, so I'm just going to get this show on the road. And hopefully all of my testing, all my simulation that I've done will pay off. So it is somewhat of a slow launch, to be sure. And so far, I have found this thing to be very finicky. It may be the huge fairing on the top here. We got a bit of overheating, but that's normal for us, at least for this guy. And so I'm going to begin my pitch program. Now the hope here is that we will hit our apsis. That we might go in a little bit more shallow than we normally would. We do have a little bit less delta V than I usually put on these rockets. I usually try to go for 4K. But I was running into issues trying to get 4K going with that. So it looks like we need to pitch up just a little bit. If we're not absolutely perfect, that'll be fine. One thing I do want to check on this, though. These fairings may be a bit of a problem for us if I'm not careful. Because I did do some last-minute rocket surgery on this. And as we all know, things tend to go wrong with rocket surgery. But given the size of the payload, I'm going to do my best not to take any chances. At least not too many. So far, this is going really well. This is going a lot better than I thought it would. And we are more or less on target. We want to try to get this under 100k if we can. The reason for that is that if we do that, we will have ourselves a tight orbit, and it would be easier for us to rendezvous with the Duna. And we're experiencing momentary lag. Which may or may not be a good thing for us. Because in this case, lag does give us the benefit that we can think about what we're doing a little bit more easily. I am not as far down as I would like to be in this case. I do have to be careful here because in reality, this could get very, very, very tricky. I certainly want to arrest my vertical climb, and there is a bit of a problem here that if we go too far outside of our prograde marker, that we will have the very slight problem, well, one that we're already dealing with now, of course. We will have the problem that we will, of course, lose. This thing will flip out, which we're high enough with that we can deal with. But nonetheless, we do want to make sure that we are well taken care of here. So you'd already begin to see here that we are fighting for control. And that is going to be somewhat difficult for us to maintain. But we will have more than enough Delta V, I think. If I can keep this thing level. And we will cut engines soon. I'm gonna cut around 90 or so. At this point, I'm cutting fine control. because we're beginning to dip a little bit too far down into the atmosphere. And this is the part where things really have the opportunity to go wrong. And this thing is going to act a bit like a pendulum. So there we go, our, maybe not the best flight. And I do want to be a little bit careful here because we are not well poised for getting out of the atmosphere as such. I mean, we inevitably will, as we will no longer deal with drag. We're getting out of the regime to where drag is going to be so much of an issue. But nonetheless, we do want to be careful. And we do want to maintain this pitch. With 288 meters per second of delta V left, it will certainly be close. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing to point prograde. And we can always rely on Flight Computer to get us to where we want to go. Now, if I've done this correctly, and that can be a big if, then these guys, there we go, bring us up a little bit. We'll dump those fairings now. And I will just do my best to speed out of the way. And it might help if I turn all of this stuff off. But I think we're good to begin. Well, actually, I'm not too sure of that. I'm going to wait until we're in orbit to deploy solar panels and things of that nature. apoapsis is 94. Maybe we can bring this down a little bit. 77 versus 79. I think we're almost ready. I know I shouldn't really care about perfection here. But if we have the means to achieve it, then I don't see the problem. So yeah, we should be pretty close. Those fairings, as it turns out, are pretty heavy. And it will be a good while, but I think we're at the point now to where we could really safely use physical time acceleration. We do want to do one thing while we're at it, just so that we don't forget. I'm going to activate this, set Kerbin as our target. Now let us speed through the atmosphere as much as we can. We still have quite a bit of time to wait. All in all, though, I think this has probably been one of the better things I've done. Maybe not better in the sense that, I mean, I'll have to look and see how much fuel we used in order to make that determination, I suppose. Anyway, let's get ourselves up into orbit. That looks like it's correcting. We are about ready, it would seem. There are some things I'd like to point out on this vessel. Things that you may not be accustomed to. One of them, or maybe it's not so much that you wouldn't be accustomed to them, but you may have noticed I added some new mods. One of them was KOS. And the reason for this is because I have propagation delay. When we get to Mars, or to Duna rather, then it will turn out that we will have a propagation delay of several minutes. Just bring up those solar panels real quick. That could be bad. That would make landing really hard. So the plan is that I'm going to write a program that'll do this for us. We've also got our whatchamacallit, the carbonite thing as well that we will find useful. And then, of course, in this particular case, I have some relay satellites. This is going to end up in a Molnia orbit here. And so it would be good for us to have that. Now this one is going to Duna, but we want one that will go to Ike as well. And Ike is going to have some benefits, but also some more requirements. I guess while we're at it, why don't we check the contract thing as well? Really nothing here that would be useful. A stacked coupler to test at the moon might be kind of interesting. But we will have to see about that. That is 92 science on its own, plus 20, and a lot of prestige. However, that one I don't believe is going to be worth it as such. We will, however, take on this Eve contract so we don't accidentally cancel it. You know what, we'll take this one too. We can always find something to do with it, I'm sure. As that'll take about a year or so. 2 years. We have 2 years to do it. And we have to send something to the moon as well. And a Minimus. So we'll be doing that while we're waiting for our thing. For our probes, because incidentally we will be about a year or so in transit. That was a wrong thing to do, actually. Let me go back. I do need to eventually bring down some of these things. And I will, probably off screen. And I may record that, but for the time being, what I want to do is I want to launch the complement to our Duna Explorer. We want our Ike Explorer, or the Ike Surveyor. And this is the other 200,000 here. Now, will this be worth it? More than likely. I mean, I think we can make it worth it, for sure. There is the possibility that by the time that point 9 comes out, that we'll be hitting Duna's orbit. Because I'm not going to be warping straight to Duna. We got other things to do in the interim. For instance, we have that Eve mission to worry about. And in that case, we have a lot of planning to do. I probably will not send a manned mission there just yet either. But it looks like we are stable. So let me get this guy into orbit. And let's see if maybe we can't get this guy up to a decent height. There's not as many parts here, so we are going a little bit faster. We're not lagging as much. And this one may be a bit on the high side. Indeed, I probably want a bigger launch vehicle for this. let me bring up our inclination just a little bit. I believe we're, despite a bad start, we're doing okay. Certainly this guy will be good as well. If we can just maintain this heading, we will be fine, I believe. With a little bit of a high axis. We need to bring down are a bit high. But we're a little bit too high for my own comfort. But I'll turn off fine control now. It may seem as though we've done better, but this is actually a little bit lighter of a craft. So I think we'll just pop those fairings off. And we should be out of the way. Not the best launch by far. In fact, I'm going to go here. I'm going to target the moon and see if I can bring down that inclination just a hair. We're at the ascending node. Let's get this up to 119. So we'll circularize the sky. We won't necessarily target anything in particular. Not yet. I mean, we're going to target Duna eventually. However, it would be good for us. So 119 by 119. That'll be good. And we look at our vessel here. We still have plenty of Delta V. We will activate this and target Kraken. So not the best orbit we could possibly ask for. But I think we'll be okay for now. And we should be just fine. One thing I'm going to do as well, now that we're up here, is I'm going to target one of our vessels. We're going to get the Duna Explorer and this guy, or the Duna Surveyor rather, and this guy linked up. Because that is going to be very important. We will also do a minor inclination change here. We're at the ascending node, so it should not be difficult. And we might as well get this guy leveled out while we can. Other things we might want to do here, in addition to turning on some of these satellites, I'm going to target Molly here. And this is going to be a backup. We will use a bit of power in doing so. But I think it'll be worth it. And this is largely so that if we need to make any corrections that we can. And there we go. This is going to be quite nice. I'm just going to get this guy set up so that we can get our burn made. or rather our barns, and there's going to be a couple of things we'll want to do here. I'm going to warp this, but I'm gonna go here so I don't give everybody watching a seizure. But what we're going to do, because we're going to have to be in here anyway, we're going to give ourselves about a 4 hours lead time. And that shouldn't take too long. We'll just get this guy up and going. And the reason for this should be fairly clear. We want some time to make any corrections we'll need to. Okay, that's good enough, I think. Now let's go to the Duna surveyor. And let's get in as close as we can. My prediction is that we're going to be... This guy will probably come second. Let's activate and get ourselves a target. The Ike surveyor will be our target. And same deal with Molly. Molly will be targeted by this huge dish here until we get far out enough to where that doesn't become much of an issue. So, what are we going to do? Well, one thing we need to do here is we need to target Duna. And Duna isn't going to be too difficult to target here. But I do need to get an escape trajectory going. And I will get this guy set up. Now the barns I will probably spare you from having to endure, because those can be rather annoying. But we will get this guy into an orbit of some kind. And as predicted, we are going to be fairly close in. It would be 33, 26, and one more to grow on. Or anything we can do to make that closer. There's no telling. But that will... Yeah, I do want to get the burn started here before I cut the video. I do want to get us in as close as possible, too. But that may be something that may have to wait. 28. Are we going to be able to do any better? Maybe we can get in closer if I rotate just a little bit. And again, maybe not. This is a rather finicky burn that we're doing here. And really, any amount of rotation that we're doing is not usually going to be a good sign. Because rotation generally means that we're off course. There's 22. Oop, there we go. $26. I think this may be the ticket. I just seem to remember last time or in the simulation rather, using a lot less delta V. So if we get in closer, we'll do that. Otherwise, this may just have to do. As we're actually doing a little bit worse. Well, I will take that. That is 372 days from now. Let's commit this burn. We have 22 minutes to make it happen. And I think that is... Once I get this guy going, I will cut the video, and then I will see you at the end of the burn. I'm just going to bring in our solar panels just in case those bearings on the nuclear engine come back and haunt us. No, we are node prograde. Let's execute this command. That will happen in some 18 minutes. And then we will be good, I think. I think this will allow us to be about where we want to be for this. We'll need to, of course, get in position here. A lot of interesting tricks were done to make this thing balanced. As you can see, it's somewhat asymmetrical. And so, for instance, I have this docking port here that will assist in the case that we ever need to refuel this thing. But, yeah, I won't make you wait the entire 2 or so minutes, 4 minutes it'll take for this. I do just want you to see that we are burning. And I will see you once we finish the burn for the other probe. So, see you here in a bit. And we are back. So, we're just completing this burn real quick. I'm gonna make sure my software is going, because I hit control, and we all know what control does in KSP. But, yeah, we're completing this burn now. That's gonna be very important to us, because we do want to get out to Duna. This is the Ike surveyor. We're not gonna have everything. Now, in full disclosure, I did run into a rather nasty bug. I actually had to redo the first burn. Didn't have to relaunch anything, fortunately, because of the fact that my file was intact. However, I do want to say that it was enough of a problem where I did have to redo the burn, and basically what happened is that KSP said that I was traveling over the surface even though I was like 200,000 kilometers up. Now we will fall short just a little bit. We're gonna have to make corrections for that. And as you can also tell, we have ourselves a mid-course plane change that is going to help as well. Relative inclination is about 0.6 degrees. And that's something we're gonna have to deal with as well. So let's get this guy pointing towards the maneuver node. I said let's get us pointed towards the maneuver node. Okay, let's not. We are a little bit wobbly. I guess we're not as balanced as I thought we were. But we do need to get this going. And so, we're down here now. Actual apsis is a little high. So I'm going to point grade normal here. However, if we zoom out, you will find that we have the opportunity for a mid-course plane change, which is going to be good for us. We're 288 days in. The other one was 352, so we've got quite the lead. This will be an advantage for us. Can we get this any... Okay, that is a little bit too much. We're now out of range, which is a bit of a shame. However, if we look at our vessel delta V, you can tell that we have a fair amount. I think 19 will be okay. And then we will schedule a mid-course plane change here. We are at our descending node, so we'll need to raise that, of course. And we will have to be quite careful in the process. Now, I did have that at noun. That is a collision course, it looks like. Or no, a Duna periapsis of 10. If we could just make... Oh, we're not right on the node either. Let's retry that, shall we? Come on. It may be possible for us to handle this in such a way that would make it somewhat easy for us to hit that apsis. So that's at 10 right now. I'm going to add that in for now so we can at least restore that. But if we can lower that, possibly, that would be nice. Maybe I can fiddle around with that off screen. Although, 271. That will have to do, I think. So, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. I'm going to get rid of this carbon Duna a deal here. And let's warp out to space. See how well we are doing, because that will be important for us. Let's just see if we have in fact hit our target. And we have, with a little bit of communication delay there. But I think it might be time for us to call this an episode. At least it seems like it to me. I don't know how long I spent working on this, but we do have a fair amount of delta V here. And as for our lander, well, our lander should be able to handle this just fine. One thing I do want to do, however, before we go, is I do want to get us some science. We'll get 88 science out of that. And you know what? We may even get... Oh no, we'll leave that to next time, I think. This, some of this contract stuff that we want to do. But we will begin, or at least I plan to begin, working on a new project, an interstellar craft, or interplanetary craft rather, that will allow us to do our thing. And that will help tremendously. That will make it to where, oh wow, well that is much better, I'm taking that. Why don't we in fact, well that's rather interesting. I guess why don't we see how the other one is doing as well. So before we leave, you get some idea of how well I did. The other one, of course, is several days. And that will be, oh, we have a main cell test. Let's get some contracts while we're out here. That could be difficult, and I don't know if it's worth it. However, this is definitely worth it. I'm going to take that. We have another plant growth mission, which is always good for us to have. And I think we will focus on launching some of these craft here, fulfilling some of these contracts. In the interim, I think we are best served if we go through here and I take a look at the Duna surveyor, because the Duna surveyor rather is in a similar situation. And if we can get this guy into a nice deal. Oh, wow. Well, I'm not quite sure what happened there. That is interesting. This happened to Tyler Rise, and so... yeah, we're just gonna leave it there for now. Until then, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.